Gojo is a sad gooner who has no friends and spends his lonely nights making costumes for his dolls. However, his life changes when the most popular girl starts rizzing him up so he can make her freaky anime cosplays. It all starts one day on his way to school. Gojo notices a few girls on the road, but since he's a certified loser, they all treat him like a cursed object. Even in the classroom, Gojo sits by himself because his passion has made him a complete loner. Just then, one of the most popular girls in his class, named Maureen, comes flying towards him and slams her head on his desk. She immediately apologizes to Gojo and even touches his arm, but the freak loses his mind because he has no experience talking to pretty girls. Later, Maureen and her friends gossip about their experience last night, where some simp tried to rizz up Maureen, but when he mocked her love for anime, she roasted him for dunking on other people's interests. Hearing this conversation, Gojo can't help but relate, as he feels a little jealous that Maureen has friends who accept her for who she is. After school, Gojo stays behind to clean the classroom, but the other students ignore their cleaning assignments and leave him alone. But a few moments later, Maureen walks into the classroom and starts helping him, which makes him visibly confused. She asks why Gojo is cleaning the classroom by himself, and the loner explains how his classmates ditched their duties. Maureen is clearly annoyed by this and tells Gojo to stand up for himself, which makes him slightly emotional. Later, when Gojo is left alone, all he can think about is Maureen's words to him, and he admits that he's wasted all these years suppressing his emotions. Just then, his sewing machine malfunctions, and when Gojo laments over not getting to finish the outfit, he suddenly comes up with an idea. The next day after school, Gojo borrows the Academy's sewing machine, which no one ever uses, and even brings his creepy doll with him.
Oh my god, bro. Oh, hell no, man.
But suddenly, Maureen storms into the room like a drunk father, causing Gojo to accidentally drop his doll. He quickly dives to save it and gets ready to get mocked, but to his surprise, Maureen demands to know how he can use the machine that well, so Gojo hesitantly tells Maureen about his grandfather's Hina doll shop. Maureen compliments the Hina doll in his hands and notices the small, intricate details as well, but Gojo is shocked because no one has ever said nice things about his passion except his grandfather. He tells Maureen that making a doll is extremely difficult, so he only creates dresses for them. Hearing this, Maureen stands up and starts unbuttoning her shirt, telling Gojo to turn around. He thinks he's about to get lucky, but when Maureen is ready, she presents herself in a beautiful black dress and explains that as an anime fan, she wants to recreate a costume from her favorite video game. Since Gojo has the social skills of a discarded tissue, he immediately tells Maureen that her dress is poorly made and should be burned immediately. But seeing Maureen on the verge of tears, he quickly apologizes and bows down to her. Maureen does not mind and explains how cosplay is the ultimate way to show love for a character. Gojo listens to her patiently as Maureen reveals how she made the black dress by herself, but since it looked awful, she asks him for some help. Moved by her passion and remembering her words about accepting people's interests, Gojo agrees to help her. While Maureen jumps around the room with excitement, Gojo wonders how he managed to befriend a stunning girl like Maureen. However, as they continue talking, she reveals that the character she wants to cosplay is from an adult-themed game, where girls are splattered with biological yogurts all day. Seeing a pretty girl talking about an R-rated video game, Gojo's missile changes direction and Maureen explains that it's about a guy who gets enrolled in an all-girls school and claps everyone in his sight. For a moment, Gojo wonders if Maureen is simply messing with him, but then she starts talking about her favorite video game character, Shizuku, saying she wants to look like her. Gojo is shocked to hear this because he believed only boys were into such nasty things, but Maureen assures him that gender does not determine what someone is passionate about. This sentence strikes a chord in Gojo's heart, and he finally stands up to support Maureen with her stupidity. To give him some context, she gives him a book filled with instructions on how to make a cosplay outfit. The book is extremely detailed, and for a moment, Gojo wonders if Maureen is an idiot, since she cannot even follow detailed instructions. However, he dismisses this concern and tells Maureen that they need to start making preparations. Maureen wants Gojo to take her measurements, but the loser tells her it's late and postpones it for Monday. But the very next day, Maureen appears on his doorstep, ready to prepare for the cosplay outfit. When he asks how she found out his location, Maureen reveals that she asked a few freaks on Reddit about his whereabouts. Gojo has never brought a girl into his house and gets flustered, but Maureen distracts him with a gift box and enters the house anyway. When they get inside Gojo's bedroom, Maureen confidently tells him to measure her body for the outfit, but the loser starts sweating like a diabetic patient. The girl has no idea why he is whimpering, and Gojo explains that according to the book, Maureen needs to be in her undies for the measurement to be exact.
Oh my.
Without hesitation, Maureen unboxes herself and reveals her enormous unga bungas, covered slightly by her swimsuit. Gojo can't take his 6 eyes off of her, but Maureen tells him to act like a man and start measuring her body. With much hesitation, he steps forward with a measuring tape, applying extreme caution to avoid accidental contact. But just as he's about to measure her head, Gojo gets flustered and propels himself away. He then asks Maureen to turn around, hoping to reduce the tension, but Maureen's dumpers are even more lethal. When Gojo asks why she is not embarrassed in a swimsuit, Maureen explains that she needs to follow all the instructions to make the outfit perfect. Hearing this, Gojo slaps his stupid face for being a beta male, while Maureen is focused on her passion project. He gets determined and steps forward, measuring all the corners of Maureen's body and noting them down like a professional tailor. She then asks the loser to measure her feet because she can never find the perfect size in the supermarket. Like a gentleman, Gojo is about to leave to get a chair for her, but Maureen crash lands into his bed. The loser explains how his bed is filled with fart smells and pee-pee stains, but Maureen doesn't seem to care and suddenly places her smelly feet on Gojo's lap. After the foot job is completed, Maureen asks him to measure her melons and gets into position. The defeated Gojo tells her it'll be inappropriate, but she asserts that self-measurement will ruin the accuracy, so he somehow controls himself and successfully notes the measurement of Maureen's ungabungus. Just when the insanity seems to be over, Maureen tells him they still need to measure the distance between her tips. Gojo's sausage will rupture if he does that, so he refuses to go near her airbags again. Maureen claims that the tips are very important for the outfit, but Gojo reminds her that they're still classmates. Maureen understands his hesitation, so she offers to measure the tips by herself and turns around. A few seconds later, she tells him that the distance between her tips is 20 centimeters, which is quite impressive for a young student. The only thing left to do is measure her inseam, and Gojo steps forward to get this over with, but just as his hand reaches Maureen's rainforest, she blushes for the first time. After the measurements, Maureen gets dressed and hands Gojo the adult-themed video game to get a better understanding of the outfit. That night, while he is inside his room, focused on the R-rated game for the costume project, his grandpa is shocked to see this loser taking notes on how to become a degenerate. But the old man also believes that everyone has the right to be weird, and so he leaves him alone. That night, Gojo has a dream in which Maureen wears the cosplay outfit and lifts her skirt. But when she invites Gojo to engage with her, the loser jolts awake in his bedroom and realizes that he released human tadpoles on his bedsheet. Later at school, Gojo walks down the hallway, praying that he doesn't bump into Maureen, but suddenly, the blonde walks right towards him. Gojo recalls his dream in which Maureen was acting like Mia Khalifa and tries to move incognito, but she approaches him to talk about the free tailoring job. While Gojo struggles to keep a straight face, Maureen tells him about her new hairstyle, and she even introduces the creep to her friends. When they see the constipated look on Gojo's face, Maureen's friends get slightly uncomfortable. Trying to change the conversation, Maureen grabs him by his shoulder, but this only sends him into a state of trance. The girls soon leave for their class, and Maureen turns back to wave him goodbye, which makes Gojo feel deeply appreciated. Later, Maureen approaches him to discuss their project, but Gojo makes excuses and tries to ignore her. Every time Maureen reaches out to him, Gojo finds a way to hide from her. This makes her slightly upset, but as Gojo is about to head home, Maureen finally meets him and asks him to accompany her to the supermarket. Seeing all their classmates side-eye their conversation, Gojo claims he's busy and runs away like a chicken. Suddenly, Maureen appears beside him and confronts him about his avoidant behavior, so Gojo finally explains how their friends are getting the wrong idea about their relationship. When he suggests they should talk when no one is around, Maureen angrily tells him to grow some nuts and let people speculate. She then jokingly tells Gojo that they should date and grabs his hand before dragging him down the street. Moments later, they reach a nearby supermarket and head straight towards the cosplay section, where Gojo shows her a detailed blueprint of Maureen's outfit. While she compliments Gojo's ability as a craftsman, the fabric nerd continues explaining the details of his craft. Then, as the two venture out to find the perfect fabric, Maureen picks the one with a glossy finish. But Gojo explains that since Shizuku is a student in an elite school, her uniform should have an elegant feel to it. He immediately finds a nice bundle of fabric, but since it's quite expensive, Gojo says he cannot afford it. However, Maureen pulls out an envelope filled with money and encourages Gojo to spend as much as he needs to. For a few minutes, the loser pretends to refuse the money, but he eventually takes it, and they buy everything needed for the cosplay outfit. Just when Gojo thinks the day is over, Maureen takes him to a wig shop, where he stands in awe looking at the variety of wigs. Maureen shows him a black wig for her cosplay outfit, but after careful consideration, Gojo recommends purple would be better for Shizuku's gothic personality. He also realizes that Maureen is enthusiastic about outfits, but her sense of style is softer than her ungabungus. So Gojo adds that since Shizuku has an asymmetrical hairstyle, a medium-length wig won't be enough, and suggests they get a longer one. Moments later, the duo heads to a lingerie store to buy garters and stockings, which induces a panic attack in Gojo. while Maureen tries on different garters. The idiot stands outside the changing room like a terrified mascot. Maureen tells him to ease up because this is not Sukuna's domain, but suddenly, she shows him her new garter, making Gojo even more embarrassed. As they get out of the store, it's already late, so they decide to grab some dinner on the way, seeing them happy. A nearby woman assumes Maureen and Gojo are a couple and dreams of a relationship like that. But when Gojo talks about the sussy details from Maureen's video game, everyone in the restaurant gets freaked out. Watching such an innocent-looking girl with a freaky boyfriend was not on their menu. On the way, Gojo offers to take all the materials home and start working on the outfit's layout. As they continue chatting, Maureen wonders where she should wear her Shizuku outfit, and Gojo asks if there are any designated areas for cosplay. The blonde explains that there are events where cosplay groups meet, and she excitedly tells him how she wants to take pictures of her outfit and upload them to OnlyFans. She then shows Gojo how other girls post their cosplay pictures, and the idiot wonders who made their outfit. As they walk home, Maureen continues to swipe through cosplay artists' pictures, and at one point, she realizes that Gojo hasn't spoken in a long time. But when she asks Gojo if he finds these girls beautiful, the simp gets into his sob story. Being the only child, Gojo was sheltered in his house all the time, but when he saw a Hina doll for the first time, he almost splattered, wondering if anything could be more beautiful than that. In his mind, the word beautiful is associated with extremely special things, and he does not want to dilute its meaning. Hearing this, Maureen understands that Gojo is a loser, but just then, she notices a food stall nearby. She immediately starts stuffing the fried cheese balls down her throat, while Gojo wonders how she has not gained weight with her eating habits. When they reach an overhead bridge, Gojo starts getting a little weird, but Maureen tells him that today was one of the best days of her life. She explains how it's rare for people to play the game she suggested, and Gojo listens to her ramblings like an obedient zombie. Since Gojo also paid attention to all the details in the game for her outfit, Maureen felt extremely validated. After thanking the stupid dork for his help, Maureen offers him some of her fried cheese balls, but Gojo refuses because in his mind, this would result in an indirect kiss. For a moment, Maureen looks at him, wondering if Gojo is judging her for eating so much. But the simp quickly changes the topic and asks her about the cosplay event. Maureen tells him that the event is in 2 weeks, and before Gojo can even respond, the blonde runs away, realizing she's about to miss her train, while Gojo stands alone, worried about the deadline. On his way home, Gojo's mind is occupied by the deadline because there is no way he can finish the outfit in 2 weeks. As his train prepares to leave the station, the creep remembers how Maureen has put all her trust in his flimsy hands. He then starts planning his days to work on the outfit. But this makes the situation worse, and he starts getting anxious. The immense pressure on Gojo's shoulder induces a panic attack, and he gets a seizure on the train. Later that night, Gojo reaches home, and his grandfather greets him at the door. When Kaoru notices the bags on the floor and asks his grandson where he was, Gojo candidly explains how he was helping his friend buy some materials for an outfit. Just then, the old man notices a woman's stocking, and realizing his grandson has transitioned, collapses on the floor. Moments later, Gojo is at a hospital, where his cousin, Miri, approaches him with a worried look on her face. The freak assures her that the old man is fine, but just then, Kaoru gets discharged, and the worried grandchildren approach him. Miri asks the old man to stay at her parents' house for a few weeks until he feels better. While Kaoru does not want to be a burden, Gojo agrees that he will get proper care under Miri's parents. On the ride home, Gojo looks out the car window, wondering if he will be able to fulfill all of his obligations. A few days later at school, the idiot is still stressed out, but Maureen assures him that everything is going to be alright and even offers to make him some home-cooked meals. Gojo appreciates the gesture but tells Maureen to shut her trap. However, hoping to cheer him up, the blonde suggests they share numbers in case Gojo needs some help. As they walk back to their classroom, Gojo is still thinking about how he is going to finish the outfit. Just then, Maureen reminds him that their exams are next week, which adds even more anxiety to this beta male weakest heart. Just the thought of juggling exam preparation, outfit creation, and grandfather cremation is taking a toll on him, and he clenches his fist in anger. Maureen notices this and asks if he is alright, but Gojo pretends like everything is fine. Later that evening, Gojo receives a phone call from a random visitor who wants a tour of their Hina doll shop. At first, the idiot claims that they're busy for 2 weeks, but when the customer threatens to leave a negative comment on Instagram, Gojo agrees to give them the tour. Despite having no time to waste, the freak is taking on more responsibilities, and he gets down to his knees, as the burden keeps piling up on his filthy little shoulders. After a brief panic attack, Gojo starts working on the outfit, but the following day, he visits Miri's house to see his grandfather, and immediately goes home to give the customers a tour of his shop. As soon as the tour ends, he gets back to work on Maureen's outfit. For the entire week, Gojo's schedule is jam-packed, as he struggles to balance his personal and social life. A few days later, their exams finally end, and Maureen yawns like a lazy dog. When she notices Gojo sitting by himself, Maureen is about to walk up to him, but when she gets distracted by a red-haired girl, Gojo dashes out of the class. That night, the blonde goes to Gojo's house to visit him, but seeing everything dark and quiet, Maureen assumes no one's home. She then decides to walk home, carrying the bag of noodles she bought for Gojo. Meanwhile, the scene inside Gojo's house is a complete disaster, as piles of garbage lie everywhere. On the other hand, the idiot is in his room, lying like a Victorian queen dying from malaria. Gojo hasn't slept in days, and Maureen's outfit still needs a lot of work. In a flashback, Gojo is on a trip with his grandfather, where he asks the old man why he brings his paintbrushes even on vacation. Kaoru explains that if you don't use your equipment every day, you'll start to lose your skills. While Gojo lies down on the floor, he starts to wonder if he is really cut out for this work. On top of that, all the memories of his miserable life start flashing before his eyes. Gojo feels like he can never succeed in anything he does because he is a worthless piece of garbage. With this, Gojo starts crying like a girl, but suddenly he remembers asking Kaoru why he continues making dolls even after his ding-dong has been dead for decades. With a smile on his face, Kaoru explains that the only reason he could push through the hard days was to satisfy his inner creativity. Then, the old man showed Gojo a photo album filled with smiling customers, mentioning that making people happy is part of his job. Suddenly, Gojo imagines how happy Maureen will be if he completes the outfit on time, so he quickly wipes his disgusting tears off his miserable face and starts working on the project. Even when the tears roll down his face, Gojo stays up all night to complete the outfit. The sun comes up the next morning, and it's the day before the event. Maureen is shocked to see that Gojo has already finished the outfit on such short notice, and with dark circles under his eyes. The Freak tells her that she can attend the event while he catches up on sleep. However, Maureen reveals that she never planned on going to this particular event in the first place. The blonde was waiting for Gojo to finish the outfit before she could buy tickets for a cosplay event. Hearing this, Gojo crashes down, partially relieved that he completed the task within the given deadline. But Maureen begins to cry, realizing that Gojo is a dense idiot who was working on the outfit while his grandfather was taking pain medications. Immediately, Maureen apologizes for not checking in on him, and Gojo also apologizes because he has no integrity as a man. Hoping to break the tension, the creep suggests she try the outfit so that he can refine the measurements. For a moment, Maureen hesitates because Gojo hasn't slept for weeks, but he tells Maureen to shut her trap and try the dress for God's sake. Feeling a mixture of different emotions, Maureen promises to wear the dress every chance she gets and thanks him. Gojo smiles ear to ear, hearing this compliment, as if he just healed his inner child. Meanwhile, Maureen watches his face and notices how this is the first time she has ever seen Gojo smiling. After some shenanigans, they get back to work, and Gojo helps her apply makeup. Then, Maureen starts unboxing herself to put on the new outfit, while the Freak waits outside the room. When he finally gets to see Maureen in the outfit he made, Gojo gets thrilled with excitement. Maureen is also overjoyed, as she looks exactly like the video game character Shizuku. Feeling slightly embarrassed, Maureen asks if she looks good, and Gojo assures her he would use Hollow Purple to wreck her domain. While Maureen squirms in excitement, Gojo asks her how the dress feels. The blonde tells him that everything is perfect except the sleeves, since she cannot move her hands comfortably. Gojo realizes that while making outfits for humans, he must consider comfort and mobility as well. Just then, Maureen jiggles her dumbbells and compliments Gojo for making her juggernauts comfortable. While the beta male gets flustered, Maureen also mentions how the skirt is exactly the way she wanted it. Gojo tries to remain humble, but the blonde coot asks him to take some pictures of her. He gladly agrees and takes a few shots, but Maureen does not look like Shizuku in any of them. So Gojo tells her to channel her inner degeneracy before striking a pose for the picture. The dumb blonde thinks this is a great idea, so she immediately lowers the cover to get a clean background. However, Maureen cannot maintain a serious face for more than 2 seconds, as she has never been this happy before. But after a deep breath, she manages to strike a few poses just like Shizuku, which makes Gojo's heart skip a beat. This tomfoolery continues for another hour, and finally, Maureen decides to take a break. She then goes through the photos and screams like a witch, excited to upload them to OnlyFans. Immediately, Maureen creates a new account, and after posting the photos with her new outfit, she asks Gojo if he wants to go to the cosplay event the next day. The following day, Maureen arrives at the event with Gojo, who looks like her bicycle mechanic. She is enamored by all the cosplayers present there, who are not afraid to express their love for their favorite characters. On the other hand, Gojo cannot concentrate because the ground is filled with pretty ladies. When Maureen asks what's bothering his wimpy rod, Gojo claims that he feels self-conscious around huge groups of people. To make him feel better, Maureen tells him that the people are shocked by her beauty, but Gojo admits that it's because he is dressed like a homeless person. To change his mood, Maureen jiggles her amazing set of pillows, but this makes Gojo even more paranoid. Later, the two make their way to the main building, where there are slightly fewer people. Just as Gojo breathes a sigh of relief, a Chungus cameraman approaches them and offers to take pictures of Maureen. The blonde is excited that someone recognized her character and excitedly agrees to a photo shoot. The creep steps back, and Maureen effortlessly poses as Shizuku, which makes Gojo somewhat proud of her. After the photo shoot, she even takes a selfie with the Chungus, officially raising his missile below. Within a few minutes, Maureen is surrounded by a bunch of photographers, and she poses gracefully for every shot. Meanwhile, the freak scans the surroundings like a kokoflan, and notices how no one is anxious even though they are dressed like idiots. Some guys are even dressed in girly costumes, confident in what they want to be represented as. Just then, he looks back to see Maureen, who is having the time of her life because he decided to work on his craft without acting like an entitled brat. However, since the event will be over in a few hours, Gojo wonders if this is the last time he will be hanging out with Maureen. Gojo recalls all the memories that led to this moment, and without Maureen, a normal school experience was almost impossible. While watching the blonde enjoys herself, Gojo takes the moment in, appreciating every second like it's fleeting away. Suddenly, Maureen glances back at him with a dumb smile on her face. Gojo feels like he's in a movie when the blonde approaches him like she's about to jump into his arms. However, after collecting her breath, Maureen claims that her costume is about to fall. Gojo's heartbeat spikes a few inches, and the blonde explains how she wore 2 push-up melon covers to match Shizuku's figure. As a result, her jugs are about to explode from the top. On top of that, Maureen admits that she feels extremely hot due to the fabric, and she is about to faint. Immediately, they head inside the building to cool down and take shelter in an emergency exit. Gojo suggests they go inside a changing room, but Maureen is too exhausted to move, so he hands the blonde a cooling patch and tells her to wipe all the nasty sweat from her jiggling airbags. Just then, Maureen tells him to unzip her dress, and the dude practically freaks out. However, he recollects his balls and opens her dress slightly, making Maureen feel good instantly. She then asks Gojo to wipe the sweat from her back, and when he reluctantly obeys her command, Maureen starts whimpering like someone is digging inside her body. Gojo's flagpole starts waving a white flag, but Maureen does not care. He tells Maureen to lower her voice, but at this point, the blonde is completely unhinged. To make matters worse, Maureen lifts her skirt to let some air inside her yabba yabba, and Gojo can simply stare at her. However, he promises to fix the ventilation on her outfit as soon as they reach home. But before they leave, Maureen wants to go back to the plaza to take one last photo shoot. Once there, Maureen approaches a woman and apologizes to her for leaving without notice. It turns out that this woman is a cameraman, and Maureen poses for a final round of photos. Suddenly, a strong gust of wind lifts her skirt up just when the cameraman snaps a photo of her. Immediately, the cameraman apologizes and promises to delete the photo, but Maureen does not care about a couple of yabba yabba shots. Moments later, the two head back home on a train, where Maureen thanks the creep for all he has done for her. However, Gojo feels a little sad since their time together has finally come to an end. Just then, Maureen tells him to get ready for more cosplay outfits, which ignites a small smile on his stupid face. However, Maureen catches him smiling and confronts him about it, but the idiot claims it's because he looks forward to working with her again. Gojo tells her that he will buy a mannequin to make his job easier next time, and Maureen immediately looks it up on Amazon. Gojo is extremely tired and he's about to fall asleep, but the blonde continues to ramble her incoherent gibberish. Just as Gojo is about to drift off, he tells Maureen that she's beautiful. The blonde gets speechless, as she knows how much the word means to him. This makes Maureen extremely shy, as she realizes that the freak might be attracted to her. Later, the two reach Gojo's house, where they decide to wash Maureen's filthy clothes. Maureen offers to wash the wig, and with careful instructions from Gojo, she gets it done. The clueless blonde thinks this is incredibly easy and turns around to toot her horn, but seeing Gojo passionate about his hobby, Maureen drips gravy all across the floor, wondering if she is falling in love with him. Moments later, Kaoru walks into the house, but he is greeted by the sight of Gojo holding a woman's dress. Just then, Maureen also makes her appearance, which makes the old coot lose his balance once again. Later, when Kaoru is being tended by his grandson, the old coot apologizes for overreacting, but Gojo quickly clarifies that he was not pumping air inside Maureen. While the blonde is embarrassed by this detail, Kaoru's eyes fall on the dress hanging on the wall. He compliments Gojo for being a skilled craftsman, but the freak claims he still needs a lot of work to do. As the two inspect the outfit like detectives, Maureen is completely in love with Gojo, as she finds it incredibly sweet when guys are close to their parents and grandparents. She cannot seem to control her hormones and wants to marry Gojo immediately, but just then, her stomach lets out a symphony of grumble. Both men turn back to see a hungry girl staring back at them, and soon, they all sit down for dinner. Maureen devours the food like a stray cat and compliments Gojo on his cooking skills. Even though the freak is an all-rounder, he explains that ever since his parents passed away, he had to learn how to cook. It turns out that Maureen also lost her mom years ago, and once her dad moved abroad for work, she had to live alone. Hearing this, the old coot asks if she is getting proper nutrition, but the blonde is full of energy, and she assures them that she eats well every day. She then shows them a picture of fast food, dressed up like it's healthy. Gojo cannot believe how she maintains her milk containers with fast food, and even Koro looks concerned. However, Maureen claims that she drinks milk and yogurt every day to counter her junk food. Realizing that the girl is basically living on borrowed time, Kaoru asks her to join them for meals every day, and after Gojo's approval, she agrees. A few moments later, Gojo walks her to the train station, where the blonde thanks him once again for making sure she had an enjoyable experience. Just when Maureen is about to board the train, she waves him goodbye like a shy girlfriend, before dashing off like a convicted felon. Inside the train, Maureen stands alone, wondering why she is having funny feelings in her chest. When Gojo told his grandfather that they didn't get intimate, Maureen was embarrassed, but she wondered what that would feel like. The blonde is certain that she is in love, as her heels refuse to stay together due to the moisture between her legs. A few days later, a girl is running through the streets of Tokyo with a stupid backpack on. She is heading towards Kaoru's shop, and soon, she waits outside the house, panting like a police dog. Just then, the old coot notices her and invites her inside, assuming she is one of Gojo's side chicks. When Gojo gets back home from school, his grandfather claims that one of his friends is waiting for him and heads outside for an evening stroll. However, the idiot starts getting paranoid because he has no other friends than Maureen. He starts imagining all the dangerous scenarios in his head. Assuming that a burglar has broken into his house to steal his outfits, Gojo carefully opens the bathroom door with trembling hands, only to find a stranger completely exposed. This causes the girl to lose her balance, and she lands on her rice cakes, revealing the most delicate area of her body. This incident takes Gojo back a few years. When he asked Kaoru why Hina dolls have no hair on their body, the old coot explained that each body part is made separately and assembled later. Because of this technique, the dolls are slippery smooth, just like the girl who just crash-landed on his bathroom floor. A few moments later, Gojo sits down with her and apologizes for glancing at her yabba yabba. After calming down, the girl introduces herself as Sejuna, who is a school student as well. Gojo is shocked to learn this because her body looks like it's been plastered with cement. When he asks why she is in his house, Sejuna yells at him, demanding to know who makes cosplay outfits for girls. Since Gojo is incredibly dumb, he assumes the girl is talking about Hina dolls and takes her to show his grandfather's collection. For a moment, Sejuna shows great interest in the dolls, and even asks him questions about Hina dolls' slippery smooth bodies. But she soon drops the act and asks Gojo if he was dropped as a child. Gojo tells her that since this is a Hina doll shop, there is nothing else he can offer her. But suddenly, Sejuna shows him a photo of Maureen wearing the cosplay outfit and wants to purchase a custom-made outfit like that. Gojo is flattered, but he explains that cosplay outfits are not his main business. However, Sejuna is not here to negotiate. She threatens to expose his gooning behavior to the public, and the only way he can save face is by making her an outfit. Seeing no way out of this, Gojo surrenders and agrees to her demand. And just then, he realizes that this girl is a famous cosplayer. Even then, Gojo has no idea how Sejuna located his house. The girl casually explains how she saw Maureen's post on OnlyFans and followed them at the plaza. Then Sejuna even followed them to Gojo's house after the cosplay event. Without wasting another second, the dumb idiot informs his only friend about a celebrity inside his house, and Maureen shows up in just a few minutes. She immediately starts glazing Sejuna for her cosplay ethics and her ethereal beauty, which makes the little girl slightly embarrassed. Maureen acts like a total fool in front of Sejuna, as she towers over the Lilliput like a skyscraper. A few minutes later, after the hormonal clashes subside, Sejuna asks Gojo to make her a Cheyenne, which turns out to be a costume worn by magical chicks. As soon as she hears this, Maureen gets overjoyed and begins rattling off details about Cheyenne, even though no one really asked for it. At that point, the freak steps in, saying Maureen even has Cheyenne carrings hanging all over her bags. Sejuna is curious and asks why Maureen doesn't cosplay her, but the blonde has no interest in cosplaying flat unga bunga. On top of that, her height does not match the character, and she can never pull it off. Moments later, the blackmailer is about to leave when she asks what their relationship is. Noticing the weirdness, Gojo explains that Maureen is only his friend. However, seeing Maureen practically dizzy with happiness makes Sejuna slightly confused. Before she leaves, Maureen offers to do a cosplay collaboration sometime, but the little girl flatly declines the invitation. Moments later, when Gojo enters the room, he discovers the two girls debating which cosplay has a better format. Sejuna claims that she has no plans to work with other cosplayers, and she wants to pursue a solo career after renting out a studio. Maureen is dizzily excited to talk to the biggest cosplayer in the country, and keeps insisting that Sejuna join her. However, when Maureen offers to handle half of the studio expenses, Sejuna finally gets interested. even though nobody asked. Gojo also decides to invest in the studio, hoping to get a whiff of Maureen's armpits. Sejuna thinks for a while and considers getting partners because she can save 50% of her money and invest that in buying expensive outfits instead. After the little girl is on board, Maureen celebrates with her giant jiggling airbags, while the loser assures them that he'll watch a few anime like Jujutsu Kaisen to get all the references. Hearing this, Sejuna tells him that a few pictures are enough to understand the characters, but Gojo tells her that watching an anime will give him a much deeper insight. To sell this point, Gojo claims that for him to nail Maureen's costume, he had to watch the entire gameplay to understand the vibe of the character. However, when the loser is worried about where he can watch the anime, Maureen decides to give him a video player as a charity. But the freak's happiness is short-lived, as the blonde tells him the anime has over 100 episodes. The following day, Gojo informs his grandfather that he is going to Maureen's house to bring a video player. The old coot is finally relieved that he'll get to massage his ding-dong in peace. Before leaving, Kaoru decides to check how much Gojo's painting skills have improved, and he is shocked to see the kid learning faster than he expected. The old coot admits that Gojo used to have wonky lines, but lately, they are much more refined. Kaoru jokingly tells him that hanging out with Maureen has been beneficial for his craft. However, he tells Gojo that in order to become a skilled craftsman, he must not put his focus only on Hina dolls. A few moments later, Gojo rings the bell to Maureen's apartment, but she does not answer the door. He wonders if the blonde has gone outside, but just then, Maureen greets him at the door in her nightdress and explains how she overslept. All the explanations are muffled because Gojo's eyes can't go past her enormous jugs. On the other hand, seeing the confused look on his face, Maureen becomes self-conscious and looks in the mirror. Realizing that she is not wearing her contact lenses, the blonde goes inside. Moments later, she comes outside with her signature look and finally invites the creep into her apartment. Gojo hands her a bag of pudding, but Maureen is still half asleep and cannot concentrate. She fails to notice that the freak has not entered the apartment yet, and he stands there like an idiot. Since Maureen is his only friend, Gojo has never been inside other people's houses, so he feels slightly awkward getting inside. Being extremely introverted, Gojo wants to leave with the video player immediately, but Maureen offers Netflix and chill for a few hours. The freak obviously agrees, and they head to a different room that looks like something a clown would live in. Eventually, the two get themselves comfortable, and Gojo starts preparing notes for an anime like a nerd. On the other hand, Maureen starts leaking biological oil over her favorite characters and continues being annoying. But just then, the blonde realizes that she is on a date with the guy she loves. With extreme caution, Maureen takes a look at Gojo, who is completely clueless that a girl is dripping gray right next to him.
Oh my god, bro. Oh, hell no, man.
The blonde realizes that she is completely in love with his man and tries to control her excitement. But just then, her stomach lets out a hungry melody, and Gojo suggests they get some fast food. However, Maureen offers to cook food for both of them. The freak gets excited to eat a free meal, but when he remembers that Maureen eats like a wild animal, he starts getting paranoid. Gojo even tries to take over kitchen duty, but the blonde is determined to cook the meal by herself. Meanwhile, Maureen puts on an apron while completely forgetting to put on a melon cover underneath it. She's confident that Gojo didn't see her jiggling dumpers, but the man is fighting for his life after seeing them uncensored. Now that she's clad in her kitchen uniform, Maureen gets ready to prepare a homemade rice and egg dish. She is surprisingly good at chopping onions and fries the rice like a divorced dad. The food ended up tasting great, but when she put it on a plate, it looked like somebody had shat on the table. Since the dish does not look aesthetic, Maureen tells Gojo to throw it away, but the freak assures her that it tastes very good. For a moment, the blonde does not trust his taste buds, but Gojo assures her that there is no point in lying now that they're good friends. Later, the two continue watching anime, and like a complete idiot, Gojo starts crying at an emotional scene. However, Maureen finds this cute and hands him a tissue to wipe his disgusting tears. That evening, when he reaches home, Gojo and Sejuna discuss the concept for her new cosplay outfit. The girl is impressed by the amount of homework Gojo does, and she immediately offers to send him money and materials needed for the job. However, Sejuna holds back under Gojo's direction, as the exact amount is still not confirmed. As they chat, the freak inquires if she wants help with her hair and makeup, but Sejuna finds this weird and tells Gojo to shut his trap. With genuine curiosity, Gojo asks who she manages the depth in her eyes during photo shoots. Without hesitation, the uptight girl immediately turns on her video and shows him how to use a stupid tape. Seeing this, Gojo's mind drifts over to Maureen, who would love to have eyelid tape for her makeup. When Sejuna mocks him for being an amateur makeup artist, Gojo says that it was his first ever cosplay event. Hearing this, Sejuna finally understands that she is in the presence of greatness. Sejuna realizes that since it was his first attempt, the photos were taken on an iPhone. For the first time, the girl offers kindness by allowing Gojo to use her high-grade camera to take pictures. Sejuna reveals that all her cosplay photos are taken by her younger sister, Shinju, who is better than professional photographers. While Gojo listens to her advice, Sejuna tells him to invest in a good camera set, since that'll enhance the image drastically. After hanging up the call, Gojo calls Maureen and informs her about the photo shoot practice. The blonde coot accepts the meetup without hesitation and wonders how sweet Sejuna's lister must be. However, when they arrive at the meetup location, they are shocked to see a voluptuous girl next to Sejuna. Somehow, the younger sister drank all the milk, and the older sister ended up looking like a cardboard box. A few days later, Maureen flips through the photos Shinju just snapped, gushing over how incredible they look. However, Sejuna jumps in, crediting Shinju for not only taking the shots, but also coming up with her cosplay name and setting up her account. But the giant melon holder claims she just wanted everyone to see how cute her sister is, and the social media account unexpectedly blew up. However, when random gooners started messaging her, Shinju had no clue how to reply and just ghosted them all. The sisters seem to have different opinions because Sejuna says she doesn't care about strangers' opinions, but Shinju admits that the follower count makes her happy. Seeing this, Maureen grins like a convict, noting how much Shinju clearly adores her sister. She hesitantly nods in agreement, but seeing this, Sejuna's cheeks turn red due to embarrassment. Moments later, Shinju pulls out their dad's camera, mentioning that photography kinda runs in the family. Gojo is immediately attracted to shiny objects and asks how it can take better photos than a smartphone. Shinju explains to this idiot that a camera gives crisper images and better control over lighting and backgrounds. Meanwhile, Maureen notices how passionate Shinju is and asks her if she has ever considered cosplaying herself. At first, the girl hesitates to answer, but when Sejuna asks the same question, she claims that she's happy just photographing her sister. Maureen tries the camera herself and, shocked by the sharp photos, declares she wants to buy one immediately. Meanwhile, Gojo checks the prices online and nearly chokes at the cost, which doesn't even include lenses. Sejuna adds that accessories jack up the price even more, which crushes Gojo's hopes even more. He wonders how cosplayers afford this gear, and Maureen jokingly says they'll stick to phones until she can save up a fortune. But Sejuna chimes in like a monkey, advising them to stay practical and buy what they can actually afford. As they chat, Sejuna suggests checking out some studios and proposes meeting at the train station that weekend. When the day comes, they arrive at an old, abandoned hospital turned into a studio. Maureen and Shinju race inside like a bunch of rugrats, while Sejuna lags behind, questioning if this is the right thing to do. Gojo mentions that the creepy vibe is perfect for scenes from the anime, and Sejuna agrees, who is still surprised at the fact that he watched the entire show. A few moments later, Maureen and Shinju call out from inside, and as Gojo heads in, he notices Sejuna frozen at the entrance. He asks if the place creeps her out, but the girl brushes it off and marches in like Stalin's army. Upstairs, Maureen worries the hallways might be too dark, but Shinju assures her the flash will handle it. She then dives into explaining camera settings, and Maureen eagerly joins the geek out session. Noticing that it might rain anytime soon, they suggest wrapping up before it pours. However, as the downpour starts, Gojo finds Sejuna bundled in a corner and asks if she'd rather wait at the entrance. Sejuna insists she's fine and wants to push through for her cosplay. Confused by this response, Gojo asks why she's forcing herself, but Sejuna turns the question back at him, asking if he has any dreams. Gojo shares his goal of becoming a Hina doll craftsman, and Sejuna compliments him for being honest with her. Just then, she quietly admits that she once dreamed of being a magical girl. Sejuna explains she was obsessed with magical girls as a kid, but grew up realizing they weren't real. A few years later, she discovered she could buy their costumes, and even though Sejuna's first cosplay was a mess, it made her incredibly happy. Ever since that day, she decided to chase that dream her own way. When Gojo asks why she picked him to make such a meaningful costume, Sejuna confesses she felt jealous seeing Maureen's photos in his work. Something about the outfit struck her instantly, like it was love at first sight. This triggers a memory for Gojo of seeing his grandpa's Hina dolls as a kid. He'd called them the most beautiful things ever, and Kaoru explained they were designed to catch eyes and spark that instant connection. That moment set Gojo on his path to follow his grandfather's craft. Overwhelmed with emotions, Gojo starts crying like a girl, which shocks Sejuna. He then grabs her hand and thanks Sejuna for the inspiration she just gave him. However, since Sejuna goes to an all-girls school, she cannot handle the sudden physical contact with men and loses control. A few days later, after finishing their final exams, Maureen suggests a beach trip to Gojo. Before the simp can even give alternatives, he's standing on the sand, asking if this is for a cosplay shoot. However, Maureen simply tells him that it's summer and urges him to have a good time. Hearing this, Gojo smiles in agreement, as he has always been an uptight guy. While Maureen munches on a burger, she asks Gojo to feed her some fries. But before he can, a bird dives in and snatches her burger. They try moving spots, but the bird keeps stalking them. Gojo tosses the fries in another direction to distract it, and they run forward, guarding their last burger like it's Bitcoin. Later, they sit to share Gojo's burger and watch the waves peacefully. Maureen offers him a sip of her bubble tea like a caring girlfriend, but the freak declines, dodging the indirect kiss. Moments later, Maureen runs to the water to cool off, but she accidentally flashes Gojo her undies as she splashes around. She calls Gojo to join, so he awkwardly rolls up his pants, ditches his shoes, and steps in like Stephen Hawking.
Rolling to the end of the board, springs down, he's off.
When his feet sink into the wet sand, Gojo freaks out, and Maureen teases him, asking if it's his first time. Gojo admits it is, explaining he was too busy with Hina dolls growing up to do stuff like this. However, he now understands why his grandpa kept pushing him to see the world. Completely in love with his honesty, Maureen promises to drag him to more pleasant places his summer. When he mentions it's going to be just the two of them, Gojo gets flustered, but he eventually agrees to a private Unga Bunga display. Just then, Maureen runs off to grab a drink, secretly leaking biological oil, thinking about their planned time alone. When she looks back, Maureen sees Gojo drifting in his own world, and she snaps a photo of him to capture this moment forever. However, the freak ruined a perfect moment by planting his face straight into the water. After the vacation, Gojo and Maureen rummage through his room, ready to sort through fabrics and trims for their next project. Without any warning, Maureen flips up her skirt like a paid worker, and Gojo nearly falls over. His eyes are locked on her undies for a few seconds before she casually says it's just a swimsuit. But suddenly, Maureen teases him about the night before when she texted him a picture wearing the same swimsuit and got no reply. Gojo's face goes red, and he dodges the topic, since he spent that night appreciating the photo in private. Maureen keeps showing off the swimsuit, posing like she's on a beach shoot, and Gojo, sweating bullets to save his life, asks for a second to breathe. Seeing this, Maureen pokes fun at him for getting flustered, but this time, Gojo fires back, telling her to keep her distance unless she wants him to lose it completely. A few minutes later, they calm down, and Maureen helps paint a black jewel for her costume, grinning about finally being useful. This hits Gojo right in the feels, reminding him of the first time someone made him feel needed. Then Maureen gets hyped to try on her outfit and starts unboxing right there, causing Gojo to slap his hands over his eyes like a diva. However, Maureen realizes that she's covering her mountains with the wrong blanket and scrambles to cover up. Later, Sejuna slips into her costume and can't stop admiring Gojo's craftsmanship. When he asks if anything needs fixing, Sejuna says the skirt could use more fluff but plans to toss a tutu underneath. She then throws on the cape, peeking out over the detailed lining, and Gojo mentions it's heavy fabric. Hearing this, Sejuna gets excited because it's perfect for social media photos. On the other hand, Maureen watches this from a distance, wishing she knew enough about tailoring and photography. She wants to give Gojo advice like a pro, but her attempts at feedback sound like a total rookie. Just then, Gojo offers to do Maureen's makeup and wig, and Sejuna chimes in with tips to match the character's vibe. He then pulls out some tape, showing how to tweak eyelids for that filthy anime look, while Maureen gets amped up like always. On the other hand, Sejuna helps him extract the tape in the right amount, and when Maureen checks the mirror, she's blown away by her own beauty. The blonde bounces up and down while smacking Gojo's arm in excitement, already pumped up for the photoshoot. Unfortunately for them, rain starts pouring outside, and Maureen's mood is ruined. While they wonder what to do, Sejuna points out that the gloomy weather actually fits their character's edgy feel. She gives Maureen's costume a green light, and the blonde gushes about how much she loves both their characters, begging for a photo together. Luckily this time, Sejuna lets her guard down and agrees to take a picture, which gets uploaded to OnlyFans immediately. Meanwhile, they notice Gojo and Shinju are taking forever to show up. When the door finally opens, Maureen and Sejuna's mouths drop. It is revealed that after Sejuna's fainted the day before, they stopped the conversation early and headed to the station. Gojo realized something was off and apologized for not realizing it earlier, but Sejuna brushed it off, saying she was fine. On the other hand, Maureen had other plans and bailed, leaving Gojo with the Sejuna and Shinju. Meanwhile, Shinju mentions she wants to check out some shops at the station, so Sejuna heads off, leaving them alone. On the way, Gojo inquires if Shinju secretly wanted to cosplay as well, wondering if her sister was the one clock blocking her. Hearing this, the poor girl feels embarrassed, and Gojo quickly apologizes for being too direct. Just as he walks away, Shinju stops him and claims that she wants to cosplay a mysterious character. She reveals that since Sejuna has a stick figure, she might get jealous of her thick body. However, Gojo assures her that cosplaying is not about jealousy. It's about expressing your true desires without any judgment. Gojo is extremely supportive of Shinju, and he encourages her to try whatever outfit she wants. Finally, she claims that she wants to cosplay a character from the same anime as Maureen and Sejuna. Gojo wanted to measure her Bobasaurus so badly, but this creep was proven wrong when she picked a male character called Soma. Despite this, Gojo patiently listens to her desires, and he arranges a secret photo shoot. Shinju confesses that the size of her unga bungas often ruins her outfit. However, Gojo the Glazer is determined to help her and tells her to calm her melons. A few moments later, they head back home, where Gojo hands her a school uniform, which looks awfully similar to the one from the anime. As Shinju tries it on, the freak leaves the room to give her some privacy. However, Gojo starts imagining what the dress would look like on Maureen's body. When he goes inside the room, Gojo notices that the buttons on her shirt are about to explode into the stratosphere. He then helps Shinju to fix her shirt and wonders how Hina dolls never deal with giant airbags, since they wear kimonos. This sparks an idea in Gojo's mind, and he decides to fold her oranges. When Shinju goes to change again, Gojo thinks about the time when Maureen doubled up on melon covers to make her airbags appear bigger. When he goes inside, the poor girl is depressed, as her melons cannot be folded easily. Trying to come up with a solution, Gojo notices that her body is extremely feminine, a stark contrast to the character she's trying to cosplay. However, he does a quick Google search and comes up with a solution, using a beholder. They immediately look it up on Amazon and are shocked to see how cheap it is. Since the milk container problem is solved, Gojo starts taking her measurements. He tries to measure Shinju's head first, but her milk containers keep interrupting him. After a couple of days, they meet again to finalize the wig, where Shinju notices how grounded Gojo is. The freak admits that inside he is actually scared of messing up, which makes Shinju feel better. As they chat, Gojo reveals that there's a student in his class who is really his ideal person, and even though she seems perfect from the outside, she is struggling in her own way. Gojo calls that person a sweetheart, but he gets back to his dumb version. Gojo explains that everyone has things they're working through, even if they look confident. Shinju takes this advice quietly, and soon, they start working on the wig and makeup. Back in the photoshoot session, Maureen and Sejuna finally see Shinju, and they are stunned by how great she looks. Shinju is practically vibrating with happiness as her sister praises and also lets out a full-blown compliment. Eventually, the girls gang up to take their first group photo, officially marking Shinju as a cosplayer, not just a photographer. Channeling her inner photographer, Shinju takes pictures of her friends non-stop, like there's no tomorrow. She even makes them do a stupid anime pose, but Sejuna has different priorities. She is extremely creeped out by the spooky old building they're having fun in. Just then, she catches Maureen totally nailing her character, and it's almost freaky how versatile this giant melon girl is. However, everything turns upside down when Maureen calls Sejuna an adorable little cardboard. During this tomfoolery, Maureen cannot control her laughter. On the other hand, Sejuna knows this chick is not keeping it friendly, but she recognizes how absurd everything has become lately. Once the shoot wraps up, Sejuna pulls Gojo aside for a quiet word, thanking him for looking out for Shinju. Sejuna knows Gojo covered some of her sister's cosplay expenses and swears she'll pay him back. She also confesses she feels like a lousy big sister for missing how much Shinju wanted to cosplay. However, Gojo nonchalantly says it's tough to open up about stuff you really care about sometimes. His words hit home, and Sejuna is struck by how genuinely kind this stupid brat is. Over on the other side, Maureen's still hamming it up as her new character lights the same fire with them jugs. Shinju is practically bouncing when she nails the perfect photo, but just then, Maureen's melon cover calls it a day, revealing her secret agent Randy Beans to enlighten everyone. A few hours later, the cosplay sisters are flipping through the shots, totally blown away by how Maureen absolutely slayed the look. Sejuna's eyes linger on one particular photo, and it hits her that her feelings might not just be about Gojo's awesome costume work. Shinju catches her sister's intense gaze and wonders if she hates her photos. However, Sejuna admits that she's kinda envious because Shinju rocked a character she'd never have the guts to try herself. The gigantic melon bearer is shocked to hear this from her older sister. However, she returns the favor by complimenting Sejuna in all of her cosplays. Hearing this, Sejuna claims that she only picks characters she knows she cannot fail in. While she doesn't dislike how she looks, Sejuna sometimes wonders what it would be like to try something different. This reminds Shinju of what Gojo once said, that everyone has their own struggles. So Shinju tells her older sister that she plans to get a job when she's older and save up to cosplay even more. Sejuna gets excited to hear that from her sister and says she's looking forward to it. Sejuna also reveals that she wants to do photo shoots with her little sister, not with half the country of Japan. As they chat, Shinju mentions how much fun the group cosplay was, and Sejuna glances at a photo with Gojo lingering in the background, softly agreeing it was a good time. Later, at home, Gojo's flipping through the pics when Maureen calls, practically bursting with excitement over how awesome they turned out. She raves about his makeup skills and asks if Shinju was rocking his uniform. When he confirms they worked on it together, Maureen's brain screeches to a halt, picturing him alone with a girl who's thicker than her. Suddenly, her voice drops, and a wave of jealousy hits her like a truck. Fast forward a bit, summer break starts, and Gojo's hyped to tinker with his dolls in Maureen's next cosplay, which is a fierce character named Veronica. They would often watch anime together like weebs. Maureen was drooling over Veronica's golden vibe, while Gojo was stressed about matching her skin tone. Now he knocks out the costume in no time since it's pretty basic. Maureen shows up at his place, looking like she just got back from a tropical vacation, explaining she went ham with body foundation. She asks to hit the shower, so Gojo waits outside, clutching some of his clothes for her to borrow. When she steps out, refreshed and in his shirt, Gojo's brain melts as she even smells like his shampoo. Maureen shows off her bold cosplay makeup, complete with dramatic mascara and chunky jewelry. Gojo spots something poking out of her bag, and Maureen pulls out some stick-on wallpaper for switching up photoshoot backgrounds. She's still missing fake fangs for the look, so Gojo hands her some he crafted from press-on nails. She pops them in, and he's blown away by how legit they look. Then, out of nowhere, Maureen lifts her shirt to touch up her foundation, and Gojo sees way more than he was ready for. His face goes nuclear, and Maureen, thinking he's just too warm, bolts for water but slips and bangs her head, pausing cosplay plans for the day. A few days later, Maureen drags Gojo shopping, but this time it's all about him. She asks Gojo what his style is, but he just shrugs like an idiot. Maureen picks a shirt and shoves him toward the fitting room. A store clerk sees her waiting and assumes her boyfriend's gotta be a total catch. But when Gojo steps out looking painfully average, the guy hopes he's got a dig pic. Maureen keeps tossing him shirts, hyping each one like he's a model, even though Gojo's hating every second. She grabs a simple tee for herself, hoping they can twin, and looks amazing in it. Later, they hit up a ramen spot and keep browsing, but Gojo buys nothing. Meanwhile, Maureen is unfazed and mentions doing the Veronica cosplay now that she's healed, but Gojo suggests she handle it solo. The blonde is caught off guard, wondering if Gojo is hanging out with her. Then he blurts out that seeing her in that outfit might send him into a meltdown. It clicks, and Maureen playfully slugs him for freaking her out. She then promises to pick a chiller character next time, and says she'll rock the Veronica look at home so his effort isn't wasted. They keep strolling, both a little red-faced from the moment. Suddenly, Maureen tugs him close, teasing about sending him pics in the costume. Gojo practically faints, but Maureen laughs it off, saying she likes messing around with beta males. With the heat cranking up, Maureen suggests they find somewhere to cool off, so they duck into a manga cafe. Maureen is happy, smiling about how these places have everything. But Gojo's stuck on how cramped the booth is, their elbows practically brushing with each other. He asks if manga caves are always this weird, and Maureen shrugs it off like it's normal. She then picks up a menu, and Gojo's jaw drops at the lineup of greasy snacks. Then, Maureen pulls out a manga about a succubus who's head over heels for the main guy, gushing about how she loves the character's pigtail style and dreams of cosplaying her one day. Gojo notices this character's outfit is less revealing than Veronica's, but Maureen throws him for a loop, saying she might not do it. When he presses her, she quietly admits she doesn't think she's got the cute factor for pigtails. Gojo nudges her to give it a shot since she's so into the character. Red-faced but touched, Maureen agrees, mostly because he's rooting for her. Curious, he asks what a succubus is, and Maureen casually explains they're dream-walking demons who zap people's energy with their charm. Gojo's a bit spooked, but she flips to a manga page where the succubus just wants to hang with the guy and ends up dozing off herself like a Dumbo. On the other hand, the succubus gets distracted by candy so the guy can work, and the goofy vibe makes Gojo realize it's a lighthearted story. Maureen pops out to grab their snacks, leaving Gojo with the manga. He does not seem to like it because the art is so basic that he can't make out the costume details. Gojo has worked with vague references before, but this one's a headache. Later, he suggests swinging by a bookstore for a clearer reference. On the way, Gojo spots a shop with clothes he actually likes and grabs a jinbei. Back home, he shows it off to Kaoru, feeling pretty good about leveling up his style and confidence. A few days later, he wraps up the costume, and Maureen texts him about booking a nearby studio for their upcoming shoot. As planned, they meet up, and though the place looks a little shady, Maureen barrels in, all hyped. Inside, she's bouncing around until she spots a weird pickle-shaped massager, and it is revealed that they are in a love hotel. He asks why she didn't say anything, and Maureen sheepishly admits she found a cheap room online with a bed straight out of the manga and booked it without a second thought. She only realized it was shady when they got there. Gojo tries to play it cool, telling himself it's just a studio, but that massager sends his brain to some awkward places. Meanwhile, Gojo notices a dessert menu and asks if they've got sweets, but when Maureen tries to call room service, he stops her, saying this isn't the spot for casual munching. She agrees it was a goofy mix-up, but decides to slip into her cosplay since they're here. Gojo waits outside, flipping on the TV, only to jump when an adult film blares on. He lowers the volume, sneaking a peek for some pointers. When Maureen steps out in her costume, Gojo almost starts drooling like a dog. Maureen claims that the best part of cosplay is making things unique. Then, out of nowhere, she brings up a silly rumor about keeping a pickle protector in your wallet for luck. Gojo's face heats up, but Maureen finds one in the room and teases about splitting the good vibes. He does her makeup and wig, and when she checks the mirror, he says she's a dead ringer for the character. They kick off the shoot with Maureen posing on the bed, eating chocolates to match the manga. Next, they get bored and decide to try a lullaby scene, but it's not quite right. Gojo suggests shooting from the guy's angle, so he lies on the bed and asks Maureen to lean over him for the photo. She worries about crushing him with her chubby cheeks, but he brushes it off. As she hovers above, he snaps a killer shot. Maureen's stoked, but then loud, happy noises from next door snap them back to reality. Gojo immediately pulls back, and they end up tangled, as their faces are way too close in the dim light.
Yeah, boy.
Just as things heat up, the phone rings. Maureen hurries to change, rattled by how close they got. In the elevator, a woman passes them with a knowing smile, like she's been there before. Back home, Gojo's still buzzing, unable to get Maureen out of his stupid head. One evening, Gojo is in his room, working on making Hina dolls as flawlessly as possible. Later, Gojo notices some fireworks displays in the sky and gets notified with a frantic text from Maureen, pleading for help with an emergency. He immediately rushes to her apartment, only to find the blonde chick spilling her protein all over the desk, drowning in textbooks. Maureen complains that her dad canceled their summer festival plans to punish her because, for the past 6 months, she has been nothing but naughty. Maureen whines about missing the fireworks, but Gojo points out she's swamped with assignments and that fireworks won't help you get good grades. Maureen realizes that she has been engaged in modeling gigs a little too much, causing collateral damage to her homework and studies. As they chat, Gojo gets curious and asks what kind of job keeps her so busy all this time. Maureen immediately gives him a fancy fashion magazine with Maureen's face displayed on the cover page. Gojo is stunned because getting featured on the cover page is a big deal, but Maureen laughs it off, saying the magazine is just for amateur models. She explains how one of her hairstylists arranged a meeting with a local magazine editor, and now Maureen does part-time shoots to pose for a fancy camera. Gojo barely recognizes her under production-grade lights and makeup, and Maureen smiles ear to ear, saying every set lights up when she's around. To unwind, she suggests they watch a horror movie, and even though Gojo is an absolute female dog when it comes to scary stuff, Maureen insists it'll be fine. However, as soon as the movie begins, Maureen starts clinging to his arm and shaking violently, while Gojo reads between the lines and analyzes the monster's costume details. As soon as the movie is over, he rewinds the video to study the makeup. However, the poor Maureen freaks out as she buries her face to avoid being scared twice. A few moments later, after completing most of her homework, Maureen celebrates with an annoying screen, celebrating that there's no math homework. However, Gojo tells her about the latest algebra drills, and Maureen realizes she forgot them at school. The duo then makes their way to campus to grab the algebra drills, and on the way back, Gojo invites Maureen to his place for dinner like a smooth operator. Maureen is excited to hang out with Gojo, as she desperately needs a break from monotonous studying. As they walk by the school compound, Maureen kneels to check out the water in the pool. Gojo warns her to watch out, but the stupid girl slips and falls in. When Gojo realizes that Maureen's Unga Bunga won't let her swim, he dives in to save her, leaving them both moist. He asks how she handles beach trips, and she shrugs, saying she just eats, chats, and admires the ocean's sparkle without swimming. Maureen wonders if it's weird to love the sea despite that, and Gojo says he gets it, because he wants to clap her buns soon. Gojo compares it with Hina dolls, saying he loves the craft from the bottom of his heart, even though he can't make them perfectly yet. This stupid monologue impresses her, and she wants to continue having fun at the festival happening tonight. Just then, Gojo reminds her about her homework, but Maureen promises to finish it with his help later. That evening, Gojo informs his grandfather that he's off to the festival, and Kaoru grins, happy that his grandson is finally being a social cockroach. Meanwhile, the festival is in full swing, and Gojo worries he'll lose Maureen in the crowd, but the blonde pops up, spinning in a stunning yukata. Gojo is left speechless, and Maureen teases him, joking that he looks ready to sneak a neck kiss. The stud is too flustered to snap back, but his blush reveals he is a serial gooner. Throughout this encounter, Maureen smirks at him, keeping her collar low to mess with him. The duo then wanders the food stalls, while Maureen aims for a candied apple. But as she camps out on every stand, Maureen starts piling up snacks. A few moments later, an announcement calls them to the plaza for the fireworks display, and Gojo admits it's his first time seeing them up close at a festival. The sky explodes with color, and the idiot almost loses his low-calorie brain cells. However, when he glances at Maureen, Gojo realizes that the girl is even more dazzling than the fireworks display. She catches him staring and sticks out her blue, candy-stained tongue at him, making them both crack up. Later, Maureen's sandals cause a rash around her feet, so Gojo offers to grab bandages. However, Maureen says it's easier if he just carries her, and just like that, the blonde is on top of Gojo's back. They then have a casual conversation about their favorite conspiracy theories. Maureen is bummed by the sore feet, and she vows to come back with him next year. This makes Gojo's heart fill up with love, knowing Maureen wants to keep hanging out with him. Back home, while Gojo gets ready for bed, his phone rings. It turns out to be his dearest, Maureen, whispering that she's scared after watching the horror movie's sequel. The blonde tells Gojo how right now, every creak in her apartment sounds like a ghost. With a desperate voice, Maureen begs him to stay on the line until she falls asleep. The simp has no real job, so he agrees to this stupidity, slouching on his bed with the phone on speaker. As they chat, Maureen starts rambling about their summer adventures. She recalls all those beach days, cosplay shoots, and manga cafes, while Gojo's responses get quieter until he drifts off to sleep. The man is pretending to be asleep, but hearing his hardcore snoring, Maureen smiles in the dark like a goblin, wondering if this is what love feels like. She softly tells Gojo that she loves him, and with the call still connected, Maureen gets comfortable in her bed and imagines that she's sleeping right next to the loser who makes costumes all day. If you watched this anime recap until the end, comment down Milk Jugs. If you like anime recaps like this, watch this video.